Okay.
Yes.
Ready,
Sorry,
Mr. Mayor.
Albury.
Oh, it's quite okay. Okay, we ready? Thank you so much. So at this time, we're going to call the Town of Mingonia Park regular council meeting of May 7th, 2024 in session. Roll call, please.
Mayor Albury,
Here.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Here.
Councilmember Davis Quinn,
Here.
Councilmember McConnell.
Here.
Thanks so much. We do have a quorum. And so just before we begin, I'm just going to take a 30-second privilege to just remind everyone that unfortunately the AC is broken. And so for those who may be online, forgive us. You may see us fanning a little bit because of the warm weather inside. But we're happy to be here, and we're going to continue with the meeting, and we're going to get through it. So at this time, we've had roll call. And so at this time, if we would just let her stand for our invocation, please.
Heavenly Father, I'd like to thank you for bringing us together tonight. Thank you, Father God. Thank you for bringing us together in spirit and in truth. Help us and guide us, Lord God. We need direction on making decisions for the people. And we just want to say thank you for your guidance that you're granting us tonight. Thank you. Amen.
Amen. Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. You may be seated. So at this time, we're going to follow along with our agenda. For those in the audience, there are some agendas on the back table if you'd like to follow along as well. At this time, are there any additions, deletions, or substitutions to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, yes, with the council's consideration, we would like to add item 7C, and that would be an emergency purchase and installation of a new air conditioning unit for the council chambers. Item 7C.
7C. Okay. Are there any other additions, deletions, or substitutions to the agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve as amended? Okay, motion has been made to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Is there proper movement seconded? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. It is carried. Thanks so much. Also, if you're following along, for any items that you see annotated on the agenda, they're in consideration of our consent agenda, and tonight we have none unless there are some to be recommended to be placed on the consent agenda. Any items to be considered for the consent agenda? Hearing none. At this time, we'll continue on in our agenda. Our next item is our proclamations and presentations. We have a presentation and update on the monitoring of the sewer line along Jeffrey Avenue and repair of the water main located at 440 West Tiffany. I'll start with Ken, and then we'll go to David.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, this is an item I know everyone's familiar with, but, since this was happening in real time and, things were happening on a day and half-day basis, felt like it'd be a good idea to give everyone a public rundown of the last couple of weeks. You may recall that on April 16th, Council authorized staff to take quotes and to make a point repair on Jeffrey at the East Place manhole. And on Friday the 19th, our contractor, DS Eakins, and I did send out a text message to everyone reporting that I think I rounded it up for $40,039 and some change. He was the low bid. We had quotes of $39,000, $76,000, and $106,000. So he was the low bidder, and he's got a good reputation. So he came out to do the work. They dug into the ground. They did like a 12 or 14 foot area that they were looking in, and the line was pristine. So there was no damage to the line. They did discover a huge concrete block at the manhole at East Place. So they were able to chiseled that away and sucked that out, and that took care of some of the blockage that I had been reporting previously. Unfortunately, that didn't seem to rectify the situation, and we had to move ahead. We've called in what we consider to be experts. David has been on board every day since this has been going on, and what we did discover in one of our conversations, we had a gentleman from the City of West Palm Beach Utility System, Sewer Superintendent Brandon Ingram, came over on a Friday afternoon, and that was on Friday the 26th. And he looked at all of our videotapes. He looked at the lift station here at Tiffany, and then he went over to Jeffrey Avenue and Boardman Avenue, and he was just looking around. And on his way back to his office, he called me and he said, I think it's possible you may have a significant water leak in one of the lines in the housing development behind the lift station. So that was an interesting twist. We knew that the lift station was getting, a lot of sewage, and we noticed some of the water was rather clear. So what we did on Sunday, the 28th, I had a staff member that was on duty start popping the lids to the manholes back here. And right off the bat on Tiffany, he discovered that there was a pretty rapid gush of water coming through that manhole, indicating, that something serious was going on. So that gave us an indication that there's probably some infiltration going on from somewhere. On Monday the 29th, that staff member, myself, and Mr. Eakins, the contractor that was there on Jeffrey, late in the afternoon, we went all through Tiffany popping manholes and looking. And what we discovered on the backside on West Tiffany, right in front of Scientific Instruments, in that manhole, water was gushing. The next manhole back toward the Kids Are Creative and back in that way, that water, or that lift station, that manhole was calm, not a gush. So process of elimination, there's a leak somewhere between that manhole and the one in front of Scientific Instruments. On Tuesday, Tuesday the 30th, Fred, our utility supervisor, called me and he says, I think I found a location where we might be having a significant water leak. And of course, that was in the same area that we had discovered the day before. And he had, I think David was here at the time. And we went back there and he had a couple of the guys just dig a little bit into that area that he felt like, and water just shot up. So obviously there was some water line damage there. So we began the next day to take quotes. We only received 2 quotes. We went with DS Eakins for an amount of $31,000 to fix the water line. The water line, the leak was just massive when they got in there. And we don't know how long that it's been going on exactly like that. My best guess is certainly since the end of March. And along the way, David's partner, Kurt, had discovered that this lift station here at Tiffany was working double. I think everyone knows the lift station, if it's working, 4 hours a day, when the flow reaches the float, it starts working, it pumps. So instead of working 4 hours a day like it, and David can correct any of this when he opines, when it was working 4 hours, that was in like the December, January, February time frame. When you get to March, in particular late March, it starts working 8 hours a day, which means there's some significant flow coming in there. So with the repair of the water line, this is stopped. We have a normal flow throughout Tiffany, throughout the lift station, and certainly on the Jeffrey area where we were having the issues, on to the High lift station. So I'm going to let David, that was a real layman's term point of view on that. I'll let David give a more technical view if you like. Just from my perspective, since we did have a lot of water and a video also showed sand infiltration, we have at best, we have a cracked pipe that's going to need to be repaired here in the near future. While we fix this water main break, the rainy season's getting ready to happen, and with that groundwater coming in, we're going to start seeing an increase in flow again. Probably not to the extent that we've just witnessed, but I would say sometime within the next couple of weeks, we need to look seriously at repairing that sewer line. And I'll turn it back over to council for questions and David for.
Okay. Just before we go to David, let the record reflect that Councilwoman Webb is on the dais. David?
Thank you, David Stanwell, Cameron, Giordano. I don't have much more to add. To summarize, it was really the perfect storm of events. You had a cracked water main, very old and old material as well, asbestos cement pipes, which they don't use any longer today because of its brittleness in nature, in the same vicinity as a cracked sewer pipe. So you had those two. Those are very unique instances to occur right at the same location. So you almost had a direct pour in of water leaking from the water pipe going directly into the sewer. So again, the water main was fixed in that area, a repair of just a small section of pipe. The sewer leak or whatever was not addressed. So just keep that in mind. We still have that issue. So I really encourage us to try to be proactive in thinking about some of these repairs. You know, we talk about master plans and things like that. You know, we have identified in the master plan a goal to replace all of those old asbestos cement pipes that we have. We know we won't do it all at one time, but to start chipping away is our goal. And that's a common practice with other utilities as well that have used these older pipes back in that era of time, and they're going to replace them. So it really was the perfect storm of events, and I'll tell you, my hat goes off to the town staff, Ken, and utility supervisor for all their efforts, really invested in trying to find this. It was days and days and days before we started narrowing it down to this. And utility supervisor gets my certain appreciation for his work to do that. So thankfully, we found it. We have reduced its impacts, but we still have a little work to go. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I can add to that a little bit, we do have the sewer line to look at, and David and I have already talked about this lift station here. We need to kind of go through that completely because, you know, a couple of red flags did go up during this process. Nothing, I would say, overly significant, but enough to, you know, have us go in for a deeper look, if you will. Also, and I think probably everyone's heard this by now, the manhole lid on 45th Street. When this happens, there is such a rush of fluid that comes up. That manhole pops up. It's happened on a couple of occasions, and a couple of years ago, we had a really bad incident with that. Everyone was okay, but what we have here in front of you, here on the floor, this is, I have this. This has not been purchased. This is just to show you. This is a manhole lid that will actually bolt down. And I think we're going to have to go to this at some point just to prevent that lid from popping up. Have no idea the cost, and it will probably even have to be retrofitted a little bit, the manhole itself, to accommodate something like this. I mean, that's down the road a little bit, maybe, but just something that we're thinking about. So, and there was some conversations about I guess the lay of the sewer lines there on Jeffrey. You know, some folks indicated that perhaps it was laid backwards and you weren't getting a flow for that. So as of right now, everything's flowing smoothly. But those are some other considerations down the road.
Okay. Thank you so much for the presentation. And of course, 2 items down, we'll be having discussion. So if you have any questions, if you have any questions related to it, if you would, we'll reserve until then, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions as we seek to approve or not approve. Dave, you had something before we moved on?
No, sir.
Okay, okay, thanks. So what we're going to do now, and we'll reserve questions until we get to miscellaneous business. Our next, excuse me, presentation, of course, is from our accountant, who's here with us, and thank you so much, from Nolan Holden Minor. And if you would just take an opportunity, we know who you are, but to just introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Terry Morton, partner with Nolan Holden Minor, and I just want to thank you to invited me here to go over any questions you might have on your fiscal year 22 audit, which is a little later than we'd all like, but at least the numbers are all that what we would hope they would be, as far as it's a fairly good financial statement. As far as our opinion, you're still behind on your bank records in prior years, so there's just a qualification saying because of that, there could be entries that we don't know about, and so it's commonly what's called a qualified opinion. But other than that, but still everything that we know of is, you know, fairly stated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And as far as the numbers on the statements, in your general fund, your unassigned fund balance, and that's what's available for future budget years, increased about $1.5 million, and it's up to $4.2 million now. So that kind of shows the fiscal strength of the town. And the income for the current year in the general fund also went up, and that was primarily due to an increase in grant revenue received and an increase in building permits received. And in the utility fund, again, your unrestricted fund balance is $1.2 million, so again, that's a healthy reserve, and that's up about $130,000 from last year. And in the utility fund, your operating income is up about $3,000, which, so again, that's a positive trend. And as far as our management letter comments, we had two. One, the report was late, and last year we had a comment on your policies and procedures, which you did implement a new policy and procedures manual, so that comment was cleared. But we had a new comment this year related to policy and procedures. Just because of staffing shortages, you weren't able to fully implement those new procedures you came up with. And really, it's a clean audit. You should be proud of staff and their fiscal management. It shows that the town is increasing. Let's open up to any questions anyone might have.
Thank you so much. Great, good news. We appreciate it. So we'll see if there's any questions or comments from council. Any comments or questions as it relates to the audit? Okay, ready. No questions? Okay, great. Okay, then we're going to be making a decision in just a moment, so if you'd like to stay by. Okay, thanks. Okay, alrighty. So with that, we're going to move on to our agenda. Our next item is item 6, and these, of course, are all ordinances and resolutions. We have ordinance number 2024-01. This is second reading. Amending the Code of Ordinances of Chapter 14, License and Business Regulations. Amid?
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'm going to sneak in your League of Cities update,
My
just for
apologies.
calendaring purposes, because I know there's an
My
RSVP next
apologies.
week. This month is the installation gala, so if you are, that's, as I told you before, it's Tuesday, the 21st of May, but the RSVP deadline is next Wednesday, the 15th, so if you do plan to go, make sure you get with Manager Metcalf so you can get your RSVP, and I'm sorry to sneak that one in there for you.
It's okay. I'm working on 2 agendas, and so I bypassed it. My mistake. Okay.
And with that, if at your pleasure, Mr. Mayor, I'll read the title of the ordinance that you stated. It's ordinance 2024-01. It's an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Mangonia Park, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Mangonia Park at Chapter 14, licenses, and business regulations to add entirely new Article 4, vacation rentals, containing entirely new sections 1441 through 1447, to require permits and establish regulations for vacation rentals operating within the town, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 14 licenses and business regulations shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. This is second reading. I'll answer any questions. This draft that's before you does contain the revisions that I indicated to you verbally at the last meeting that you approved on first reading, subject to those revisions. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor, for any questions on this draft.
Thank you so much. Of course, at the last meeting that we attended to this, we had a lot of questions, and there were some revisions, as our attorney stated. Are there any questions or comments as it relates to the draft that you have before you for consideration? Any comments or questions by council? Okay, hearing none, we may have had full discussion on first reading. Okay, that being considered, if there's no questions or comments, We'll now entertain a motion as it relates to ordinance number 2024-01 for second reading, amending the Code of Ordinances at Chapter 14. Is there a motion?
And Mr. Mayor, as the motion is contemplated, could you solicit public comment?
Yes,
Thank
sorry,
you,
the
sir.
heat is getting to us all. Okay, my apologies. We do want to open this up to public comment. If there's any comment from the public as it relates to this ordinance. And of course, as stated during the last meeting and this meeting, this is addressing the rental situation that is and/or may present itself in Magnolia Park, similarly like all municipalities at this point in time. So if there's any questions, the floor is open to public comment. And while we're waiting for public comment, again, for those who've just arrived and those who may have just tuned in, the AC is not working, so we apologize. Feel free, there's a fan, so for those who are not here and you see us fanning, it's only because it's a little warm in here. Okay, thanks so much. So the floor, okay, feel free to take mine if anyone needs it. Okay. Okay. All righty, any comment on the proposed ordinance from the floor? Hearing none, we'll close the floor to public comment. We'll return to the dais. Any questions or comments from the dais? Hearing none, motion please.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2024-01 as read by the attorney.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded that we approve ordinance number 2024-01 upon second reading, amending the Town Code of Ordinances at Chapter 14, License and Business Regulations. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Buchanan Webb. Councilmember Davis Quinn.
Yes.
Councilmember McConnell.
Yes.
Vice Mayor sorry. Vice Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
And Mayor Olberry.
Yes. Thank you,
Passes
sir.
unanimously.
Oh, thank you so much. Our next item is item 6B, and this is resolution number 2024-04. And this, of course, is the approval of the annual audit for fiscal year 2021 and 22, as presented a little earlier by our accountant from Nolan Holden Minor. So are there any questions as it relates to the proposed ordinance and that is before us for approval? Any questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I just want to thank Terry and his staff for all the abuse they had to take, and we really appreciate their hard work. Some of you may know we were, and I think I did announce this, we were facing a pretty serious deadline from the state before they were going to start withholding some of our money. And, just a real good team effort between our staff and Terry and his staff to get this done, and they do a very thorough job. They're not always easy, but they're always very professional and very thorough.
Well, absolutely. We do thank you. Yes. And we prefer thorough and tough as opposed to not. And so make sure no mistakes are made. With that, if there is any comments from the floor as it relates to our annual audit, our presenter from our accounting firm has made comment that we have a clean audit. So if there's any questions or comments you have as it relates to the fiduciary responsibility the town is meeting or not meeting, feel free at this time. Okay. Hearing none, we'll close the floor to public comment. We're back to the dais. Are there any questions or comments from the dais?
Just thank you know that we got it completed within the restricted limits.
Yes. Yeah, it's all done, and thank you so much. We realize that we're being have staff lose staff, and we've been short-staffed, and they've come in and done an excellent job. So we thank you so much for that. So with that, motion, please, as it relates to resolution 2024-04.
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, I do move that we approve resolution 24-04, the approval of audit for fiscal year 2021-22, as presented.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Has been properly moved and seconded. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Buchanan Webb.
Yes.
Councilmember Davis Quinn.
Yes.
Councilmember McConnell.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
Mayor Olberry.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you so much. And with that, we'll move on in our agenda. Our next item is item 7A. And this is a discussion on the approval of an agreement between the Town of Magnolia Park and D.S. Eakins for emergency water repair located at 4400 West Tiffany Drive. Ken and then David.
Okay, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, this is the follow-up, and we do need official action on A and B. Of course, both of these have already taken place. This is basically a ratification of this. The first one was the water line. It's kind of in opposite order of how it happened, but the first one is the water line repair for $31,348. David and his group, they were involved with the quotes, and we went with this quote. We had a quote for $31,348, and we also had a quote for $23,000. And we felt like, based on what we were looking at, that the higher quote was actually the more thorough quote, and we felt like with this that we would have the opportunity to review more details about expenditures on their end, and that this price potentially could come down. I expect this to not be the final invoice that we get. I think it will be a bit lower. So we did go with this. This was the repair that was made last week, and we just asked for you to ratify that and approve that. I'll answer any questions. David is here as well, and of course, if you need the legal point of view on it, Mitty can chime in.
Certainly. Thank you so much. David, have any comment on 7A as it relates to that proposal?
No comment, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. So with that, any questions or comments from council? You know, we've had a presentation regarding, and they're both interconnected, so to speak. So, Mitty?
Mr. Mayor, sorry, just because of what Manager Metcalf just said, if in your ratification tonight, perhaps the motion would be, and I think this applies to both, but an amount not to exceed in the event that
Correct.
31,000 does come down. That way you're not obligated to that amount, you're just obligated to no more than that amount.
Oh, thank you so much. Definitely so noted. Okay. So with that, any other discussion? No comments? Any questions or comments as it relates to 7A? Hearing none, what is your pleasure?
I'll make a motion, we approve the agreement between Mangonia Park and D.S. Eakins for the emergency repair water main located at 44 West Tiffany Drive, Mangonia Park, not to exceed $31,348.
The motion has been made to approve. Is there a second? Second. Has been properly moved and seconded. Are there any questions on the motion? And just as we're considering, and of course, this meets the emergency procurement orders that we have in place. Meets that
Yes,
threshold.
Mr. Mayor, your code requires for expenditures like this that they are brought before you within 60 days for your ratification. And that's what tonight is, a ratification of what was already done.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks. I appreciate it. With that, any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Buchanan Webb. Yes. Councilmember Davis Quinn.
Yes.
Councilmember McConnell.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
And Mayor Alberry.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you so much. And a related item is item 7B. This is a discussion on the approval of an agreement between the Town of Mangonia Park and D.S. Eakins for the emergency repair along 5350 Jeffrey Avenue here in Mangonia Park in an amount not to exceed $39,538. At this time, we'll entertain, in fact, if there's any additional information.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, this was actually the first repair, and this was going to be the repair to solve everything, and it didn't. This amount was for the point repair that was to happen on Jeffrey, and I talked about the 12 or 14 foot section that they dug out of the ground there at East Place. This amount, we don't have the final invoice on this. I think this amount will be considerably less than this amount because they did not have to replace any line. They didn't have to do any major. I think on that line they saw a hairline crack that they just, cemented over. But the main thing was that piece of concrete that they had to chisel away and take out. So this was the first thing that we did. And like I say, I think this amount definitely not to exceed the $39,538. But also, I'm expecting this, as I am on the other one, for these to be less than the amounts that you're looking at. And I'll answer any questions, as will David or Mitty.
Thank you so much. Anything, David?
No further comment, sir.
Okay. So just as we are here today, and of course I'm going to back and forth with the manager throughout the process, but just for the record, as we said today, what is the status of that repair?
For this repair, the pipe was found to not need the point repair. So the fix was to remove the chunk of concrete that the town manager mentioned from the inside. So there could be some additional work on that sewer line. I mean, if you recall, I think around 2016, the town underwent some sewer lining of the pipes. Not all of the pipes were lined due to the funding constraints that were in place at that time. So there were some of those pipes on Jeffries were lined and other pipes were not. So in some future conversation, we will talk about that, but for right now, that pipe is in good working order for the time being.
Oh, great. And overall, we haven't had a situation since
Not since Thursday.
Okay, great, great. Okay, great. Okay, any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I would like to get a clear understanding, because we just voted on the work that was done, and these other people were supposed to do the work, but they didn't complete it, correct? So we're not voting on them tonight on amount that they should get, because you don't have the invoice, correct?
That's correct, but B, that is the work that they actually didn't have to do. We took a quote on that, and when they dug up the asphalt and actually got in there, there was no need to do a point repair. They just had to knock out some concrete that was in the manhole.
So we, again, let me get a clear understanding. So we're not gonna vote on them tonight because 39,000 is a lot of money, and they didn't do the work that, for 39,000, correct?
They did the work that was in front of them.
But not that
They,
amount.
they dug up the asphalt, they got in there, they had everything prepared to make a point repair, but they didn't have to because it wasn't necessary.
If I could maybe further explain that. So they did the initial efforts that had to be done
Right, I
anyways,
understand
which
that.
was getting inside the manhole and analyzing from the inside out, essentially. When they did that, in preparation to do the point repair, they found a hindrance in the pipe, which they removed. So they did initiate the work, it just didn't necessitate actually digging the trench and replacing the
Right, I
pipe.
do understand that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm trying to figure out why we vote for that amount tonight when they didn't have to do the work after they got in the hole, like, oh, we don't need to do
Okay,
that.
because the code requires that anytime we sign an agreement like this,
Okay.
under an emergency basis, that it comes back to town council to ratify. We did do that. We did contract with them to come out to make the point repair.
Okay,
You're ratifying that action, okay? They did not have to do a point repair, so when we get the final invoice, it should be considerably less than the 39. They did have to do work, and their work required one full day and then maybe 2 half-days. So if you want to say 3 days total, they had to dig up the ground, they had to chisel away the concrete, then they had to come back and fill in the hole, and then finally they had to replace the asphalt. So they had quoted on 5 days' work. It was really just 3, and there's no materials for piping that needed to be replaced. But since the action was taken to get them under contract to do the work, that has to come back to be ratified, and that's
Right.
what we're doing there. And of course, everyone will see the final invoice, what it actually cost.
oh, okay. Okay, so I understand. I was just trying to understand why we were voting on it, since we don't have the final cost.
And again, that's not to exceed, which I don't think we're going to
I
get
heard
near
that too. But I was just, it just kind of boggles the mind, the fact that we're gonna vote on a price and we don't have an invoice to tell us what the final price is. But it's okay.
So for them to get a final invoice to us, they have to receive their final invoices from everything that they use. They have
Okay.
vendors that they use, and that hasn't happened, but we have a pretty strong indication it's going to be a lot less than that amount.
All right.
All righty. Any other questions or comments?
I think the main point is that we want to approve the payment even when it comes, which will be less than what was in the contract
Right.
amount.
Yeah, I understand that.
All righty.
Okay.
All righty, so for those in the audience who may, I'm not sure what's going on, as we've discussed, we had a situation, just in brief, and we secured the services of DS Eakins, who came out and gave did an initial assessment and said, oh boy, this is probably going to cost you about 40,000. When they got in there, they realized, okay, no, it isn't going to cost you 40,000, but we had already taken a position here that we know that some work has to be done. They said it might be up to $40,000, right? And we gave tentative approval to that. Now what we're waiting for now is for them to submit their invoices. That's going to be a whole lot less than this. So that what we do is, in taking this action now, today, if it comes in, it's only 5,000, we've already voted to pay them up to. So 5,000 is not 30, so it'll be less than the 30. And so we'll just get that payment out to them as opposed to coming back with just ratifying that work that was already done today.
All right,
Okay?
got it.
Okay, all right. Okay, so with that, any other questions or comments?
Well,
If
seeing
not-
this is emergency funding requirement, where does the fund come from?
So in your budget, you've authorized a little bit over $1 million in what we call ARPA funding for utility-type work. This would have to come out of that.
Alrighty. Other questions or comments? Hearing none. Okay. Any comments or questions from the public, or was it all clear? Okay, great. No, thanks. Alrighty, so with that, if there's no other questions or comments, motion please.
I'll make a motion, we approve the agreement between Mangonia Park and DS Eakins for the emergency sewer repair along 5350 Jeffrey Avenue, not to exceed $39,538.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
I second.
Has been properly moved and seconded. Are there any additional questions on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Buchanan Webb. Councilmember Davis Quinn.
Yes,
Councilmember McConnell.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
And Mayor Alberry.
Yes.
Passes unanimous.
Thank you so much. So at this time, our next item is,
Just before we go on, I know this was a lot of extensive work and had to go out and between our staff to get this done over a month of continuously review and digging until you found the culprit and then finally getting that removed. I appreciate the fact that you all continued on it and that you were gonna make sure we get the lowest cost factors to pay for the work that's been done. Thank you.
thank you. And just before we move, Councilman McConnell has a question or a statement.
Right. It's concerning the water leak. So it was my understanding, what I heard, that we still have a water leak. Is that water leak fixed, or do we still have a water leak?
The water distribution piping, the leak that was on that pipe has been repaired in that localized area. So that leak, that specific area has been addressed. The item that has not been fixed is the sewer pipe that appears to be cracked somewhere because it was letting that water that was leaking go right into the sewer. So it's the sewer pipe that still remains as it was in its condition.
No, my concern was if we got a water leak, it's costing us money. If it's just flowing out in the ground, it's costing us money. So if that was the case, then, you know, we need to get it fixed. But if it's a sewer line, then
Well, in actuality, it's both, because the sewer bills that we receive from the city of Riviera Beach are showing an increase. So unfortunately, that there was a period of time where we were sending more flow to Riviera Beach for treatment because of this leak. So that has been remedied at this point. Just to note, town manager mentioned rainy season is coming, things like that. As that ground becomes more and more saturated with summer storms, that saturation can find its way into that pipe. So we still have that potential where we may be treating something other than the sewer that's generated from the customers.
but we don't have a water leak.
In that specific location, we do not have a water leak, no, sir.
Thank you.
Right. Any other clarification needed or questions as it relates to these two items? Okay. Hearing none, thank you. So our next item, we're going to move now to item 7. If you're following along in the agenda, And this is item 7A, a discussion on the approval of agreement between the town of Mangonia Park and DS Eakins for, I'm sorry.
I think we're on
Well, I'm sorry.
7C.
7C.
I think we're on 7C.
Forgive me,
It's the
again,
heat.
I'm two agendas. So set up 7C. This, of course, was, let me go to the other agenda. This was for approval or discussion for
Purchase of AC unit.
purchase of the AC unit. How could I forget that? Okay, purchase of the AC unit for here in the town council. Okay.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, we did hand out a quote that we received from our service technician, EJT. And this is basically the same quote that we had to have last year to replace the one over the admin office. He said he'd, get it for the same price. Clarification on what I told you earlier today, Mr. Mayor, it will take up to a week for this to come in and probably another day to 2 days to get it installed. So the recommendation is that we go with this. I'm going to ask, his quote is $13,876. I'm going to ask for a little leeway in that just in case. So not to exceed $14,500.
Okay.
But, I mean, that's if something else needs to occur with that installation, which I'm not anticipating, but instead of this having to come back to you, just a little cushion there.
Okay, thank you so much. And Amity, just for the record, and this is far below our bid threshold.
In either way, it's an emergency, I think is how it's being brought to you tonight. But yes.
Okay. All righty, so with that, you have the proposal before you, and as well as pictures. Any questions or comments from council? Any comments or questions?
Excuse me, by chance, is this the only AC unit that we have to fix? Because I know we fixed one, and now we're working on this one. Will this complete the AC units for now?
For now, yes.
Okay.
Now, when we get into the summer months, now he comes and services all of them monthly, or as needed. But when we get into the summer months, I'm sure he's going to have to tighten something here and there and, some repairs. But this is the only replacement that I'm anticipating.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
And has anybody ever done a survey to find out, how old these units are?
Well, I believe this would be, if you go back to 2018, this would be the third new one. So we should be pretty well set, for a while. And how old were they prior to that? No idea.
I mean, I've been around here a long time, but you don't keep track of the AC units. Yeah.
So we had one replaced in 2018, and of course, one last August,
Yeah.
and this one here today. So when it rains, it pours.
Other questions or comments, council? Okay. Just a quick question. Now, in looking at the pictures, sometimes what will happen, and of course, he's not here, but I'll ask the question. Sometimes what will happen is that when your compressor go out or something like that, they'll come and repair or replace the sort of the inner workings of it all and keep the same casing. This looks old and rusted. Are we talking a complete new unit that has the casing as well, or? Okay, just a whole new unit altogether. Okay.
And in fairness to this contractor, when we replaced the one last year, he told me, you really need to go ahead and replace this one too. And I said, well, can we keep it going for a little while? And he said, I'll do my best. So we got a few more months out of it.
Yeah, just wanted to be clear. Yeah, just, I think White and Councilman McConnell was just pointing out, but I wanted to be clear because like at home, in your personal home, sometimes a repair person will come out and say, well, your casing is fine. You just need to replace the compressor and the fan. So you'll have that same casing that might have been there for 10, 15, 20 years, but new compressor. So what I wanted to find out, if you have a copy of it there, it's just the casing itself was sort of rusted that contains the compressor and the all of the other workings. So just wanted to make sure, and so that is, so the whole thing is being removed? Okay, great.
I'll ensure that, yes, sir.
And the South Florida, the salt air in South Florida rust up things a whole lot, but this looks really rusted. So I was just kind of curious. Okay, okay, great. Okay, other questions or comments?
Yeah, once the new unit is put in, can we have pictures of it, just how we have the pictures of the old
Absolutely.
one? That way we know it's done.
All righty. Okay, other questions or comments? Hearing none. Okay, what is your pleasure?
I'll make a motion that we approve getting a new air conditioner for the council chamber from, is that EJT Service LLC? Not to exceed 14,500.
Should that motion include emergency service terminology?
It can, that's how you're processing this, correct, Manager Metcalf? Yeah, as long as the maker of the motion is okay with this being approval of an emergency award to replace the air conditioning unit. Is the maker of the motion okay with that friendly modification?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Also, before we have the second, the maker of the motion, now on the estimate, they have 1,387.76. You're just rounding it off in case there's some unforeseen something, or?
From the conversation we had with,
I asked for a
That's at
little bit of
14?
cushion, just
a
in
little
case.
cushion? Okay.
Not anticipating the need, but just in case.
Okay, okay, great, great. All righty. So the motion has been made to have the repair done by EJT Services LLC, not to exceed $14,000 for the repair of the AC on the roof for the council chambers. Is there a second?
Second.
Has been properly moved and seconded. Are there any other questions on the motion? Hearing none.
And Mr. Mayor, before you call for the vote, I just want to make sure the number is correct. Is it 14,500 or 14?
14,500.
Okay.
14.5.
One other
14.5.
question. What's the warranty on this unit? Do you know?
I don't know, but I'll find out and get it to you.
That way we'll know in the future, for the future. Thank you.
Okay, and just for the record, I had initially stated 14. I thought was a clarification, but it's 14.5. The seconder is agreeing.
I will agree to that.
14.5? Okay, so I'll still clarify for the record. Okay, any other questions or comments or clarification? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Buchanan Webb. Councilmember Davis Quinn.
Yes.
Councilmember McConnell.
yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
And Mayor Olberry.
I like it hot in here. Yes.
Passes
Yes,
unanimously.
Give them a cool
Okay.
bottle of water and we'll just pour it over it.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you so much for those who are here bearing with us in this hot weather. So at this time, we're on item 8, and this is public comment. So if there's any comment from the public, we'll take it at this time.
Here comes the apostle.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, good evening.
Mayor, Mr. Mayor, Town Council Board, Town Manager, Clerk, and Attorney, and all. I'm Senior Pastor Apostle George Ferguson, Power Prayer Ministries. I'm also a resident of Town of Magonia Park. I wanted to go off on something first, but this may sound, well, in other words, what I'm about to say may be said easier than done, but go back to Town Engineer Calvin. You said something about there is another leak in another area of a pipe. We was talking about item 7B. No, 7B. You said that was fixed. And what I'm concerned about is, I know Riviera had a problem because some of our pipes are hooked with them. They had a sewage problem a while ago. We don't want that to happen to us. So what other area you're saying that have leaks? And then I think it was 2 areas that you was basically speaking about. And how are we going to rectify that? Just in case, and I'm asking, do that leak or either that connection issue, I think I heard you correctly, would that affect our city water?
The 2 issues that I described earlier, well, one was on the water pipe, a leak on the water pipe that has been fixed. So that leak has been repaired. That was an older pipe that had a crack in it, essentially.
Right.
So that has been repaired. The other pipe is a sewer pipe, and that was not repaired because they were not able to determine where that cracked pipe or leaky pipe was. There should be no, contamination issues with your water pipe. They were two separate pipes. But the comment I made earlier was that that sewer pipe was not addressed.
So we haven't found that issue, because we do have storms coming up. And y'all know that eventually we move into hurricane season, but in 24 days, 25 days, and that could be an issue with, water. How they say, pressure bust a pipe if it's already cracked. Get more pressure in there. I think you already have a problem with what do we call these sewer caps or
Manholes?
Yeah.
so.
So,
I mean,
right.
we are looking into that. I mean, what are we doing with that? You said we haven't found that issue yet.
So we haven't found the exact location. We know approximately, within 15 feet. And, that will be the next thing. And as I said, I'm probably at the next meeting, ask council that we move forward. I'll start getting quotes and bringing those back. But yeah,
Is that the area you was talking about with Tiffany Lake, where the pipe may be cracking in a general area?
it's on the backside West Tiffany,
Okay.
in front of Scientific Instruments.
All right. I sure hope we get that done quickly. Whoever, council, make sure we get that done quickly. I hope y'all find it. All right, with that said, I do want to thank the council board for all of the work you all do. You are, compared to a lot of city halls I pay attention to, go around and look. I mean, the disagreements, what we may have sometimes, you stay cordial, and I really appreciate that. I've seen people fight, pull out guns, all kind of stuff, and I really appreciate you guys. Even when we as the public come up and attack you, sometimes you all stay within the realm of your leadership. But we want to thank Ken Metcalf for his work that he's doing, also with Sonia being out, dealing with park and recreation and dealing with the senior citizens. He have stepped up, but yet he keeping this thing going, and we want to say, let's keep it going. So he agreed upon it to keep the social senior citizen movement. Council lady Prince came out and helped, and I'm also Buchanan too, Buchanan Webb, Council Lady Buchanan Webb. So I appreciate that. We want to keep Sonia in prayer though, because she's one of the members, one of the employees here, and everybody knows she went through a surgery and all. So she does a great work. And you all doing a great work. Keep up the great work. There was one more thing. Let me see if I remember. On 45th Street and Australia, the north side at the red light of Australia and 45th, you got this gas station on one side, the gas station on the other side. There's a dip right about at the red light when you start to head east from the railroad track. You start to head east and go across Australia, go across 45th Street. There's a dip, and I've been here over a decade, and that dip getting worse. Yeah, because when you drive, as soon as you get back to the red light, you come across there, boom, it drops your car down real, And I don't know if y'all paid attention to that, but I really want to bring that to y'all attention. Engineer, whoever supposed to get that done. So we need to try to look at that, because eventually, I don't know if that, I thought maybe that eventually would turn into what they call a sinkhole or something, but it have gotten worse. I can tell you that. So somebody could go and test drive and going across there. I thought about I was going to make them funny, but I guess I will. Mr. Mayor, you said about the glad it's hot in here, and because things moving faster, seems like it's hot. So I was gonna say, well, I'll stand here and talk another hour if y'all let me do
If you like the heat.
Wait until the AC comes in.
Let's get out of here, but that's it.
Oh, thanks, we
Thank you
appreciate
guys,
that.
keep up the great work.
Well, certainly
Thank
appreciate it. All righty, and Ken has made a note of that dip. Of course,
have.
county road, so we'll
County.
get a
I'll
hold of
call
the
them.
county. Okay, oh, great. Okay, any other comment from the public? Okay, yes, and just state your name and address when you come. Thanks.
My name is Mary Wallace. I live at 1612 Boardman. Sorry I was late. I'm dealing with 2 sick parents.
Oh, it's okay.
Any updates that I may have missed regarding the property right behind my house? This lot where we were talking about at the last council meeting? Did I miss anything?
Nothing new, Miss Mary.
Nothing new?
No updates. Haven't heard from the property owner. He hasn't submitted anything.
Okay.
So, no updates at all.
That was
Okay,
my
well,
question.
certainly.
Thank
And feel free to give Ken a call occasionally, and he can provide you whatever update that we may get.
I appreciate
Okay,
it. Thank
that's
you.
right.
Actually,
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I think she owes me a visit, actually. so-
Okay, sure. Visit, phone call, okay.
I'm messing with you.
Oh, certainly, okay.
Good evening,
Hi,
everybody.
good evening.
Rosalind Ferguson. There is a hole right on this, turn around, this street, right on the corner as
Tiffany.
we turn in.
Oh, yes.
We gotta get that fixed.
Tiffany Drive, yes.
Yeah.
I noticed that tonight when I came in.
Yeah, when I was driving tonight.
On
It's
Tiffany,
right on the corner.
across from the daycare?
Yes.
Okay,
Right on
It's on
right at the
the
corner.
Goodwill.
yeah.
East
It's
Tiffany,
here,
yeah.
and then that curve right there as we turn in,
Yeah, East
it's
Tiffany.
a
it's
hole
there.
right there. So we
Yeah.
gotta feel that.
Yeah.
We'll take care of
All
that.
right.
Well, thanks, and I failed to make
Thank
mention
y'all.
of it.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
noticed that tonight
That's all.
coming in.
Okay, all righty. Any other comment from the public? The floor is still open for public comment. Okay, seeing that there's none other, we'll close the floor to public comment. We're now back to the dais, and we're now on our reports. Okay, Ken?
Mr. Mayor, I'll be brief. I do want to say that I am extremely, and I take absolutely no credit for this whatsoever, I am extremely proud of our staff for having the best audit in over 10 years. Yes, we've got things to work on, but most of this was accomplished without a bookkeeper. And in particularly, Sherry Alberry, who provided enormous leadership on this. Terry's gone now, but between Terry and his group, our staff, it was just a very, if you didn't know better, you'd think we were organized. So I'm just very proud of the staff for being able to pull this off under some very stressful conditions. And at the same time, we had the sewer situation going on. Very proud of David and his group. Very proud of Fred Sweeting, our utility director, and his workers, our public works. People literally worked around the clock on this stuff, so I'm very proud of that, and thank the good Lord, it looks like that's behind us. We'll get the sewer pipe repaired in short order. So just wanted to say that about our staff and our consultants. Great team effort there. And again, we did have some help from contractors that dropped in without charging us, looking at stuff. We had help from the city of West Palm Beach, and so it was great. So very, very proud of those two situations there. In your packet, you do have a copy of the updated travel policy. So we can certainly entertain any questions you may have tonight, but better yet, take it, throw questions back at me, and hopefully the next meeting we come back, we'll have that up for approval. Mitty has taken the comments from the last time we had this, she's updated it, and that's where we're at tonight. Yes, ma'am.
By any chance, did you add in about the time you and I were speaking of paying for incidentals and you guys get reimbursed for that? Did you add that in?
Not since yesterday, but what Ms. Davis-Quince is talking about, apparently when you go on a trip and you're lodging, they do require some money up front for incidentals, basically a deposit or whatnot. And typically that is refunded back, but I guess if we need to touch on that in the policy, we can certainly add that. I guess the only way to prevent that from going on one's personal card is to take a town-issued P-card or credit card on the trip. So at council's discretion, we can make those arrangements.
Okay. Oh, certainly. Now, on page 4, and I'm sure Mitty may want to chime in as well. We begin with incidentals, and so we have that $5, okay, well, we know incidentals happen, and if you don't have receipts for it, then of course the $5 can be claimed. But, so I'm not sure what the conversation there, if it was more expanded than that, then we need to consider.
No, we were talking about incidentals, once you check into a hotel and they charge you $100 for incidentals. And I was saying to Ken on yesterday that, he said, well, you'll get refunded that 100. I said, well, the town could get refunded that money too, instead of us paying, because if you guys are paying for our trip, you should pay for the whole trip. And you guys get refunded for the incidentals. That's what I was suggesting on yesterday.
Yeah. So what I was saying was typically that charge falls off if, nothing's charged to the room or anything like that. But certainly we can get, with council approval, we can have credit cards, created, but I'll leave that up to your discretion on that. But I appreciate the point.
Okay, and I was just thinking, just as we were just taking a moment, I was thinking there was something that addressed use of personal cards. Because generally, what will happen is if there are some expenses incurred, right? Then of course all of those receipts for those are brought back, and so once that happens and those are legitimate expenses, then of course you're reimbursed. But I understand what you're saying. You want something more specific language, and so we can look at and kind of consider adding some language omitting, I guess, to that incidental. If you look on page 4 of the proposed document, where we have incidental expenses, so maybe something more expanded. That's of course depending upon the town's pleasure, something more expanded that, and I'm not sure I want to just restate. Because of course, we wasn't part of the conversation.
Oh,
So.
no,
Okay.
he and I was talking, that's why I told him I was gonna bring it up on the desk about the incidentals. Most of the time, you pay it out of your own pocket, but the town is paying for our trips. So that's why I said to him, Mr. Ken, if the town is paying, they should pay for everything, because that incidental money will come back to the town anyway. So you're not gonna lose it. It comes back, it will be reimbursed to the town anyway. So he said, oh, okay, we can mention it on the desk, and we can approve it or not.
Okay. Now, on page 1, and if we need to expand, of course, we will. Take a look at page 1 where we have the definitions. Then at the last one, travel expense means lodging, meals, transportation, gas purchase when using town mileage, fees, tolls, and other incidentals. Does that cover it, or was that something more specific?
I think it's
you'd like
more
to consider?
specific than that, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we'll go to Councilman Davis to see if there's anything more specific, and then Vice Mayor.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to make sure we're clear on what you're referring to. When we take a business trip, even though the original registration is paid for by the town locally, when you check into the hotel, they ask for the credit card of the person checking in, or a credit card, to cover any incidentals. And you're saying that the hotel does post to that card a $100 fee?
I don't know how much,
Or whatever their
hotel-
incidental
Right.
fee is about. But yet it is not, is it refunded to your account? Because that's what I'm trying to figure out what you're asking.
Yes, it will be refunded back to
That's what I
whomever
thought.
pays it.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
If
So
there's
if,
no incidentals, if you don't have any problems, you don't have any children going with you, it will be refunded back.
that's what, but you're just saying to avoid the cost going onto our personal cards,
Correct,
is what
'cause
you're
we're going
saying.
on a trip, a business
Okay.
trip with the town. It's a town's trip. It's
Oh,
not
yeah, I
like I'm.
understand that.
Yeah, I
I'm just
know,
saying.
I'm saying it's not like I'm trying to, everybody here. So it's not a personal trip that I'm just taking on my own, so I swipe my own card. It's a, let's say Legal City's trip, or, it's a town's trip.
Yeah, I
So
understand
that's why,
that.
I said the town should pay for it,
And-
because they're gonna get the money back. Anyway, it would be, refunded back. That makes sense?
Yes, this is not really a pay for it issue, it's just being charged for it. Because it doesn't really take it, they don't really take a deduction out of your
You take it
card.
out of your card, right,
It'll-
right.
It
You
doesn't,
walk in-
it's never done it on my card, that's why I wanna know.
Okay. No, it's okay. If we're, you had something, Councilwoman Webb?
I was just gonna state that even though it takes it, it holds it, but it drops it right off. And not only that, even if you were to use a town card, there's a process going through that. I remember Sarita and I went to Tallahassee, and we had a situation, and even though we were elected officials, we couldn't just use a town card. So it's a process that you have to go through. So asking the town to pay that upfront deposit that you're gonna get back. So say, for example, you're there for 2 days. There's a deposit for like $100. They hold it, but then as soon as you check out, it goes back to your card. So that's not a town expense.
I understand, but guess what? What I'm saying to you is, even if the town is paying for it, it'll go back to the town. It's not gonna come to me. It'll go back to the town. 'Cause I'm
But say,
taking
for
a
example,
trip
all
from the
5
town.
of us are going to Jack's Hotel.
Okay,
All 5 of us is gonna need $100 to deposit.
okay.
They're not going to do that for each individual, like, they're not gonna do that. Hotels don't do that. Most importantly, they want the person that's checking in to be their card.
Right, right.
Right.
I do understand that. I'm quite aware that I travel a
Right.
lot. But I'm saying because we're traveling, doing a town, trip, we're not doing a personal trip. That's why I suggested it. It doesn't have to be approved. If I walk in with a town card and my ID, they know who's staying at the hotel. And that if I have a town's card, they'll just refund it back to the town.
It's
Anyway.
not that easy.
I'm just asking.
Okay.
It's not that easy.
Okay, I think I understand what she's saying.
Yeah.
When you walk in, now, so for the benefit of the persons in the audience, so what we try and do, and so we're putting together a policy that
That we never
we
had.
want to try and make sure that before we go, if there's going to be a trip that is prearranged here, staff will do it, go through all the process of securing it, making the payment directly to the vendor, whatever holiday or whatever mode of transportation, if it's a car rental, so that when the traveler gets there, it's all paid. And the town has all of the information here that they've secured the trip. So what Ms. Davis is saying, but if I get there and I get to one of these hotels and I'm going to, I don't drink, but you get there and they have the little bar in your room and they want to, just in case you do, so they want to, just in case you do, or in case you get one of those Snickers that costs $2, $5, just in case you eat it, and so they'll hold it. I guess the only way to address that, considering what we do up front, would be that we had P cards, purchase cards or something like that, which we've sort of, kind
Y'all never
of
tried
went down
it.
that
You
road.
never tried that before?
That doesn't
Oh, y'all
work.
tried it?
It doesn't work.
It has to be a credit card.
Right,
And then
so-
most hotels don't take debit cards.
Right. No, the purchase cards is actual credit card, but the town would have to secure that through some bank or loan institution and so forth, much like the town's credit card now. But again, just individual council persons having credit cards and so forth, it didn't work. It became a financial nightmare. It just
So
didn't
y'all,
work.
you guys tried that before, is
Yeah,
what you're saying?
right. So what happens now is that the person, and so the traveler would just take their personal credit card, right? And it'll go on the credit card, on that personal credit card, because everything else is paid for. And then once, as Councilwoman Webb was stating, once you check out, then it just goes right back to
Right.
your personal
Yeah, I
credit card.
understand that.
Right. So it's totally unseen by the town because the town didn't incur an expense.
Right, okay. So I was just asking, it was
Oh,
a
sure.
suggestion due to the fact that I travel a lot with the town. And when I go in the hotels, they always ask for incidentals. And I'm saying, if the town is paying for a portion, why they're not paying for the whole thing? Because they say they're paying for the whole thing. When you get there, you have to pull out your own card. And I'm thinking like, why am I pulling out my own card if the town is paying? That's why that question came
Oh,
up.
certainly. Right. And unfortunately, the
And
hospital.
then we're just trying to do, and what we're trying to do is they're gonna have any policies enforced before I got here, so we're trying to come up with policies that works. That's what this whole discussion is about, because y'all probably like, what are they talking about? So, oh, yeah. No,
Right. No,
no, we're coming up with a policy, because they haven't had policies for us travel policies. So that's what we're trying to get our travel policies in place. And so I'm suggesting that we don't have to approve that. That can go out the window, but it was just a suggestion.
Oh, yes, and all things are considered. You're a council person, bring it to be considered. Right, and we had a process, right, an understood process in place, and so we're codifying it, right? So we didn't have a codification of the process, and so we're doing that now,
Right.
absolutely. Yes. Okay. All righty. Other comments or questions at this time related to the proposed policy? And if you have any additional, once you've gone through it a couple of times, and you have any other additional comments or suggestions, feel free to speak with Ken, and we'll
I
try
was
and
looking
massage
for
it
the
if needed.
section that has the first class and the business class tickets on there, so I wanted to try.
That's another city.
What was it?
That's a no, you gotta have your
Right,
own card for
that's
that.
another city.
Hey, look, you gonna have to have your own card for that.
Right, no, this says Town of Mangonia. Right, you have to pull out that gold card.
It's gonna work out.
Okay,
Yeah,
any
that
other?
will work.
Okay, anything else, any
Only
other
when we hit
questions?
that $50 million
I needed
level.
to break that.
Okay,
Excess
all right,
travel budget.
okay, all right, thanks so
Then we
much.
can do that.
Oh, certainly. So if there's any other comments or questions or concern again, feel free to speak with Ken, and we'll, again, this is a working document until we get it approved. Hopefully at the next meeting, we'll be able to go ahead and get this voted. Okay, Ken?
And last thing on my report, Mayor, is you have in your packet copies of 2 proposals for our impact fee study. Just invite you to look at that. Give me a call. I can kind of give you synopsis on both proposals. They're both very reputable companies. One's local, one's not, but the one that's not local is, I guess, one of the more used companies when it comes to impact fee studies. So you got a good choice there between 2 very good companies. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have tonight or in between now and the next meeting, which is the 21st. I would like to bring that back. That's something council did budget in the budget year, so we'd like to get that going. And just give everyone a reminder on that. What happens is the new impact fees can only go into effect 1 year after you approve it. So that impact fee analysis, that study is probably going to take about 6 months. So, you know, as we sit here today, if we approve one tonight, we'd still be about 18 months out before we could implement the new fees. So, and certainly we want these in place before any big development happens in town.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Okay, thanks. So for review and consideration for the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, presented. Okay, thanks. Well, appreciate it. Okay, PBSO just stepped down, so we'll go to, PBSO? Okay. Okay, great. Okay, any questions or comments for PBSO? Okay, thanks so much, and thanks for everything you guys do out there. We appreciate
I
it.
do want to ask, about 2:30 one morning, I heard some gunshots. Unfortunately, it was during the time that my ears were not functioning very well. I had an inner ear infection, so I couldn't tell what direction the shots were coming from. Does the town have a gunshot detecting device?
We do not have a shot spotter. I think Ken is supposed to have some meeting maybe with the captain here about lock cameras, which also have that capability. And that's something that the town could look into.
I like how my name came up really quick there, so.
Threw it right in your lap, didn't he?
Like I said, I think there's been some discussion, again, with everything that the town does, we gotta go out and get quotes and whatnot. We do have a program that the county is using, and whatnot. We just have to build it out for the town and then make a decision if that's, cost effective.
Sergeant, what did you call that again?
It's called Flock. Like a bird.
Shot
Flock
spotter.
bird.
That's the camera system.
Shot spotter.
They do that, well, so the Flock distributor does the LPR, which is your license plate reader, and gives you the ability to also do the shot spotter as well. So they have both features. Again, it's gonna be, what do we want? So we would have to sit down, Ken and Catherine and I, present it to you as, you know, how many license plate readers do we want, how cover this area and whatnot. There's a distributor, and they're always constantly sending emails because they're trying to sell something. But, so I get them about weekly or whatnot. We'll move at our own pace, we'll, check out our options, and then, I'm sure him and Captain will present something to you guys.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we're providing direction to the town manager to
Yes.
explore this?
Yes, we'll definitely ask the manager and the captain to review possibilities of getting a shot spotter and other surveillance devices in place.
Okay, all righty.
I just think it just kind of concerned me. I couldn't tell where it was coming from, but it was close enough for me to hear it. And I don't know if it woke me up or if I just happened to be awake. I don't know. I was suffering a lot during that
Alrighty.
time.
Okay, so
I
to
think
council?
There's a comment that's.
Yes, I was going to
Okay,
ask if you
okay.
want permission to go to the floor?
I would.
Okay, okay.
Two questions. Hi, Gary again.
Okay.
Two questions for the sheriff. Is there any way for us to find out if there is increasing crime in the area? And number two, what are we doing about the traffic that is like I-95 on 45th Street? My backyard is to 45th Street, and I noticed that when you get past 95, West Palm Beach Police are now on 45th Street and on that other side, and they're ticketing every morning now. But I live right here on Boardman, and the cars are driving 80 miles an hour. What are we doing to stop it? It's unsafe.
So to address,
No first question.
we'll go backwards, we'll go with the speeding. So as far as the speeding, we kind of run into this weird area where the town stops right there at Congress, and that is ours. I can tell you right now, I have two deputies that I know that are out here quite often, and I know people don't like writing citations, but they love traffic, okay? So it does get addressed. I can always make a request for additional units to have motors up here because PBSN does have the ancillary services that we can assist you with that. And then the first question was regarding crime. Okay, so crime is a matter of public record, so you can do a records request. I will say this, I'm gonna find something. The stats that Mangonia Park is turning in right now, we have seen a wall in crime over our last 3 weeks. We had Captain and I get a crime report, and I don't know if it is shared or not. I don't know how the record system works, but we've seen a wall or a decrease in our crime over the past 3 weeks. We're trending down. We've been trending down all year. So we're about to hit a spike, as everybody always does. School gets out, there's kids out. We are trying to address that. If you live over here and you can see the tri-rail station, there's the sky cop that has been put in there. I request to have that put in there. So there's additional cameras that, they're temporary. We can do a service request for them and have them put in, but everybody in the county is fighting over those. So kind of temporary solutions. I'm hoping to have one of the digital display boards put back up here about locking vehicles, removing your valuables, stuff like that. Just got to remind citizens and whatnot. So we were out in the community, we're doing extra patrols. Our staffing is almost at 100%. So me and Catherine are hitting it full force, and we like the fact that our stats are down. That keeps us in good grace with our major and whatnot. We'd like to continue that trend. So we're trying to stay out of it. It's a little competition between your district and your local region. We like to have the best stats.
One more question for you and I'll be through. I've been here for a long time in Mangonia Park. And we were notoriously known at one point for making sure that when drivers drove through our town on Australian Avenue, they may speed every place, but when they come in our town, they slowed up. Because we have children and we have older people and we need to be safe. And I'm not seeing anybody, and that it doesn't mean it's not happening. But they used to, I obey the speed limit. But when we come down Australian Avenue, we've always had officers there that always made sure that people obeyed. It's like the Daytona 500 there too. So I've not seen anybody writing any tickets in Mangonia Park on Australia. People were afraid to speed in our town. And now they just run through. And what happens is I take 95 to work, and when I come home in the afternoon, I just want to drive through the town. So I always come home that way. And people are just speeding past me going 90 miles an hour. So Australia is another place that they've always done well as far as, and I don't want people to get tickets, I don't want tickets. Well, I do know that we need to obey the law, and driving is dangerous, and I'm a nurse, so I know what it does. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, certainly, we appreciate that. Why?
Yes, I agree with you. I got my very first ticket in Magnolia Park. Many years ago.
Yeah, so did I. My only ticket,
Way before I became a resident.
1979 on Australia.
And you used to have cops there. Well, maybe they could put a dummy. car
Right,
in there,
and I
you
had
know,
to work
per
with that
person,
officer
yeah,
years
slow
later.
it
Yeah,
down.
1979, yes, okay. All righty, so, I'm sorry, anything else, PBSO?
Yes.
Okay, all righty, I'm sorry. McConnell, you had something for PBSO?
I think I said something earlier, well, it was probably late last year. On 45th Street, they will actually pull up beside you and yell at you know, to get off the road.
They mean
The
it.
speed limit on 45th Street is 40 miles an hour. I'm doing 40 miles an hour, and they're yelling at me to get off the road.
Who's yelling?
You know,
Drivers?
it just,
Oh, not, just not,
Oh,
as
no,
long
no.
as
it's
not
like
the
they
sheriff.
don't, either nobody's giving tickets or they don't care. They just don't care. One of the two. And it just continues. I mean, to me, this is nothing new. It happens on 45th Street, it happens on Australian Avenue. I don't use Australian that much, but I do use 45th most of the time. And, you know, I'm sure when they see a sheriff's car, you know, they're not gonna do none of that. You know, they're gonna be, oh, nice. But and you guys can't be everywhere. So, you know, maybe if you can get some cameras or get something, you know, to catch them, or at least let them know, if you do it here, you're gonna get a ticket.
Okay,
Some
Go ahead.
areas, they put dummy cars. You ever thought about putting a dummy car out? And they actually have dummies in them. You can't even tell. It looks like a real cop. And that might work too on Australia. And
What?
I don't know about 45th, but on Australia, I believe that might work. Just having a sheriff car parked far enough back that they'll see the car and they're gonna slow down, even if you don't have a person in it.
okay.
Well, I do see a car on Australian quite often parked, just a little,
Sometimes.
just before Revere Beach.
sometimes.
Most of the time it's parked there. I see it's quite often there. Okay.
Yeah, and they'll, just as you come forward, then we're gonna wrap up this part of it. There is sort of the
not
underbrush
every day.
off of Australian.
Yeah, but it's not every
Right,
day.
you'll see them out there as well.
Yeah, but not every day. I go through every day.
Mhm.
How it will be addressed, you know, me and them will discuss it, whether that's extra patrols, whether that's deployed vehicle, we do use that in projects sometimes or whatnot. It's just something that has to be moved because it loses its effectiveness, obviously, if you drive by there every day. I mean, I know one down in Boca that used to get me when I would go pick my son up, and it's always there right next to school, and I would pass it day in and day out, and whoa, even if I'm not on the street, but you get that knee-jerk reaction. And at one point, like that thing's there every day.
Yeah, you just have to move them around.
It is a tactic, it is something that we do, you move around. Like I said, I'll discuss with the captain.
Okay. All righty, so we're here and here, and then we're gonna wrap up. Okay, then Vice Mayor, last comment here. Okay, go right ahead.
Marcia Wright, I'm also a resident of Begonia Park. Y'all beating up on the police. Because, I mean, I understand we need more surveillance, and I understand that. But I've seen them in their little peepholes. I noticed them in certain places, sitting back in a corner watching and waiting. On Australia, I live Australia going toward Riviera Beach, and I've seen them on several occasions. I've also seen several people be pulled over in that 45th Australia area. I mean, at one time, I was like, oh my God, they pulling over all the time. So I commend you all. I know it's probably always something more that you can do, but I say I do see you all. I do see you all.
Drive through
You know, so I just want to give that to you.
Well, thanks, so we appreciate it.
We commend you.
Councilwoman Webb and then Vice Mayor, then we're going to wrap up with this one.
I'll echo the same sentiments, but there's a but. I would save the officers, and this is just a suggestion, peak hours. I can attest to what everyone is saying, 45th Street, like, I almost had my bumper knocked off a while ago and my head, because what? I'm coming across and they don't think that they should wait for me to come. They just think that they have an arrow to make the left. Most importantly, they just stand there in the intersection. So we do still have school buses that comes on 45th Street, and you were right, 100 times, those buses still do come right there at the corner of South Place and 45th Street and pick up. And in the mornings, this is what you see. The bus is right here, and the cars are still passing the bus light, or they're literally under. While if there's an officer there at peak hours, I guarantee you that wouldn't happen. My biggest fear is someone or you guys are going to wait for something drastic to happen, then you're going to put something in place when it can be prevented. I've always been an advocate for the students. In the morning, in the afternoon, we have a bus that comes 3 different times. In the morning, in the afternoon, and then you have the after-school bus that comes over here on Tiffany. Catch them out here at 5:30, 5:20, when that angle goes to go out to the right. They're trying to speed. And then you do have kids that comes off at Tiffany that actually comes across to go. When my daughter used to ride the after-school bus, I literally used to just stand out there and wait for her, because they're not obeying the hands. They just don't care. And I'm going to emphasize this again. I believe if we have officers out there peak hours, not just on occasion, but you make it twice a week or mix it up, they don't know when to expect you type of thing, I believe that whole jam in the morning and them trying to pass the school bus, it would be reduced. Is it going to help? It could. Is it going to stop? I see since West Palm Beach started going out there at Congress, oh my God, it's so easy going across now. Before, whew. And I think they've been out there for like 2 months, right? And you see a big change out there.
Okay, all right.
Oh, I just want to say, I remember we had a good period of time when we had motorcycle cops that really kind of buzzed people because they weren't seeing the motorcycles and they were running and the motorcycles were clocking them and catching them. Even if they clocked them on the motorcycle and the cars stopped them, they had a relay going that really would help a lot of those speeders. So, yeah, I would love to see the motorcycle cops come on back in for a while. Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks. Of course, we could, there's a whole lot we can say. So a suggestion would be simply this, just speak particularly for council as well as the public, just speak with our town manager, and what he can do is arrange a meeting, particularly for council, with himself and the captain. And so any other additional concerns you may, or recommendation you may have, they can be sort of floated that way, and we can attend to it appropriately that way. Right, the last thing I'll say on it is simply this, and also speak with the town manager, because when those negotiations take place during the budget time and so forth, and we're sort of looking at staffing levels, I have asked, okay, what if we put in what if we just have another officer, right? And we, of course, they're the law enforcement agency, they know what they're doing, but our recommendation would be specifically so that we can combat this kind of issue. The cost. So I'll leave it at that. Ken can sort of explain to you what I mean by that. I don't want to put too much on the public record. He can explain the staffing levels and additional costs for additional officers out there and so forth that we've gone through each year. And so that'll kind of help to give some understanding as well. Lastly, for this, I know that we've requested from time eternity for additional red light on 45th, and I think the county basically said that there has to be certain intervals or something like that, and you can't have them too close together. I was, and I don't want to misquote the city because I'm always observing. And so I was in one city here in Palm Beach County just the other day, and before I stopped at one red light, and before I can get up to 30 miles an hour, I was stopping again at another red light. Oh, really? This was probably maybe 200 yards away. You know, red light, red light. Now, as soon as I can remember, I'll share that, and perhaps we can kind of approach the county again because we have to do something to try and abate that speeding out there. We understand that, so we're not ignoring it. There are things that we are looking at, and as soon as we are able to do something to abate it, believe me, we will. Okay. So with that, we're going to move. Again, any other questions or comments or suggestions, recommendations? Just get with our town manager, and he'll gather all of those for conversations with the captain. Okay. All righty. So anything else, Ken? I'm sorry. Anything else, Sergeant?
No, the only other thing that I will interject is that perhaps I will reach out to the school board because that bus stop in that corner, come around that curve, the line curve.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It's,
Right. That's right, it's terrible.
But just like everything we do with the road, we gotta call the county to fix the road, we gotta call school board to see if we can move the bus stop. That might help alleviate things.
We have
that
tried.
way.
We have tried.
right. No, it'll.
We have done petitions. We have gotten to, I think it was Deborah at the time. And Ferguson, like my kids, yeah, I stood there one day and a kid was this close to getting hit. And even with that footage, nothing, they did not change it. And I'm talking about 2 years worth of going back and forth.
All right, we'll continue to push. Of course, we'll try and resolve it in the appropriate arena. So we'll continue to try and push for all of the safety that we can get. Okay, but again, any recommendations, suggestions, get with Ken, and we'll get with the appropriate entities. Okay. All right, thanks. We appreciate it. Oh, certainly. Okay, Amity?
Nothing specific, other than I'll defer any questions you have to Manager Metcalf, since he seems to be in the hot seat.
Thanks so much. Any questions for Amity? Okay, thanks so much. Okay, with that, Councilwoman Webb, you have anything?
I just wanted to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the whole staff, specifically our utility group. I've seen them out there at nights, and trust me, they've been very patient with me. I probably have 1,000,001 questions, because of course I only know to turn the pipe on and off. So, and then D.S. Eakins, what is his name? He was very kind, Scott. So I pulled up out there, and I had 1,000,001 question, and of course at one point he was looking like, huh? But, you know, I already had like some stuff written down because I was watching YouTube videos as if I'm a professional or something. But, you know, I just had concerns because I wanted to ensure that whatever they were going to find, locate, repair, or fix, that it was done and it wasn't going to cost us an arm and a leg. And when they were finished, that it would be done and we wouldn't have to go back. And I say that they did a pretty good job. It was very messy and mucky, but they moved very swift and fast. Most importantly, they were patient with me.
Okay, great. Okay, great. All righty. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. Okay. Councilwoman Davis Quins? No comments? Okay. Councilman McConnell?
No, nothing.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
I can't think of anything I want to talk about right now.
Okay. All righty. Okay, and lastly, we've thanked everybody. I want to thank our town manager. Yeah, we had 2 or 3 conversations a day throughout the whole process, and so we thank you so much. And so what we're going to do, at this point in time, all we need to do is just get him certified. He's going through his apprenticeship as it relates to wastewater and sewer and all of that. So, right, so we'll just get him certified, and then we'll have him not wear shirt and tie, have him wear a public work uniform the next time something happens. Thank you so much, Ken. We appreciate it. And thanks so much. Okay, so with that, if there's nothing else for the good of the order.
I wanted to thank our residents. I forgot to acknowledge them. I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Thank you for coming out.
And braving the heat. We appreciate it.
Appreciate
Thanks so much. Okay.
Hang it in here.
All righty. So with that, motion for adjournment
I so move.
Second.
has been properly moved in second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. It is carried. Thanks so much. Have a great afternoon. It's again sorry for the heat.
Thank you, Jesus.
In fact, in more ways than one, because you got on our shirt. So. Okay. All right. Have a great one.
Shorty, what's up?
your suit ready? Ooh, yeah, that's a little warm. Why you ignoring me? Why you always act like you're